Okay, so we're now recording the session. You'll be able to watch the replay or share the replay. No problem, Amar. So great to have you in the session. Participate as much as you can or as little as you have to. It's okay. Welcome to the Art of Pitching, and I'm really excited to join you and talk about one of my absolute favorite topics, which is how to pitch your value to the marketplace. And this journey started for me quite a long time ago. And recently I saw this fantastic meme on LinkedIn, and it was Bill Gates saying, I just showed my plan to 1,200 people. 1,200 people. 900 said no, 300 showed some interest, 85 actually did something, 35 were serious, and 11 made me a billionaire. But that first number, 1,200, really talks about the journey of entrepreneurship. And even though we're working today to learn the art of pitching for the upcoming, Investor Day pitches and getting you prepared for your demo day, this is really about the rest of your working life. Because whether you're an entrepreneur or you're a knowledge worker inside a big company, so much of your value in the future, as AI comes in and takes away a lot of manual labor, etc., is going to be about your ability to transfer great ideas from your head into somebody else's. So please take this information today as not only something that's going to really help you with your investor pitches that are coming up, but it's actually a life skill, actually a professional skill that you need to have for the rest of your working life. Now, 14,000 days ago, I was sitting at home on a Saturday night, Sydney, Australia. I'm 15 years old, and I'm watching television. It's pre-internet, so there's only 3 channels, and 2 of them were Australian football, and the third one was a black and white film. And seeing as I don't like Australian football, that left me with one good option, which was this black and white film starring the very handsome Gary Cooper as Howard Rourke, the architect in the famous film The Fountainhead. And Howard Rourke is this character that is building modern skyscrapers before anyone has done it. So he's a disruptor of his time. He's really like an Elon Musk or a Steve Jobs of his time. He's really changing the game. And a lot of people are trying to stop him from doing that. He's interesting book because it was written in like 1941, I think, or 44, I can't remember. But it's really about cancel culture. But there's this famous scene in the film where a terrible architect named Peter Keating comes to see Howard Rourke and says, Howard, would you design a building and let me put my name on it? Howard Rourke, this stoic character, looks at him and says, why would I do that? And Peter Keating, the terrible architect, says, because it's a public housing project and I want to help people. And Howard Rourke said something which blew my 15-year-old mind. Howard Rourke said, Peter, before you can do things for other people, you must become a person who can get things done. Boom, that blew my 15-year-old mind. And I was like, I want to become a person who can get things done. And even though I didn't finish high school or go to university, I went out on this mission to become a person who can get things done. And so I had great bosses. I read books. I studied. I got mentors. I started companies. I lost companies. I did everything on this 40-year professional journey to learn how do you become a person who can get things done. And one of the things that I learned was the common denominator about people who do big things in the world is they're amazing at pitching ideas. They can pitch an idea in a way that becomes magnetic for other people who want to gather around and invest time, energy, and money into that idea. And so I want to share everything that I've learned on my journey with you as much as I can in 2 hours today to give you some really fundamental building blocks so you can see pitching as a key skill that you can get better at, but it's also, you can have frameworks that allow you to pitch anything to anybody. So my name is Malcolm Larri. I'm the founder of Brave Personal Development. I'm a leadership and culture consultant working with big companies all over the world at the moment. I'm working, big companies like Ericsson, Spotify, Skanska, H&M, Electrolux, GE Healthcare, working across Europe and the US. Also done sessions, obviously, in my hometown of Sydney, Australia, where I'm originally from, and I met my beautiful wife there, and my beautiful Swedish wife on the beach in Manly Beach in Sydney, and she imported me back to Stockholm. And my background is an NLP master practitioner, neuro-linguistic programming. So for 25 years, I've been studying intensely how do we use language as a tool of influence. And we're going to be talking about that today. So let's begin right at the beginning. Jump on the chat and tell me, what is pitching? Everyone giving an answer if you can. And don't worry about giving the right answer, because we just want to get some interaction happening. And I'm sure you all, I've never seen a wrong answer. But what is pitching? The art of convincing, perhaps. Thank you, Amar. Everybody answering, please. Let's get some interaction happening and we get some energy flowing. Because pitching and presenting are not the same things. Telling a story. Thank you, Ahmed. Roland says conveying an idea. Just jump on, give it your best shot. Pitching is not about getting information out, it's about getting information in. I like that, Stefan. Creating interest, the process of making someone else feel the feeling you want them to feel, creating an interest, telling a story. All good answers so far, keep them coming. What is pitching? What is this thing that we're here to study, that we're here to master? So all of the answers that I see on the chat are really good answers, but a lot of them are not complete, because telling a story is presenting. So if you go to see a TED Talk, someone wants to tell you about a topic, you know, TED Talks always start in a weird way, don't they? It's like, you might not think feminism started with a shoemaker in Prague in 1852, but you'd be wrong. And you're like, what are they talking about? And then they tell you a story, and then they end and say, and that's why when you put your shoes on, you should always think of feminists, right? Or something like that. And they don't really have a call to action. They don't really ask you to do something different. They give you some information and then let you do what you want with it. But pitching is different, because pitching is sharing an idea in a way that allows the listener to understand its value. That's the first part, and want to take part in what you're offering. That's the second part. So the first part is really about demonstrating value, and then there's a call to action, so they want to take part in what you're offering, and they see a place for them in what you're offering. And so for me, this is where we really make a very, very big difference between doing a presentation, because we have to be extremely clear about the value we're communicating. And then we want to have that call to action, which is a clear call to action. We're looking for investors. We're looking for an advisory board. We're looking for team members. And you're going to be pitching first investors, then employees, then advisory boards, then mentors, then customers. It's going to go on and on. So you're going to be pitching a lot. And I think the other thing that we really need to understand when it comes to the marketplace, that there's no gene for understanding the value of something. We only know the value of something because we're shown the value of something. So value gets demonstrated and value gets perceived. And that is the pitch. And I think that, you know, there's so many examples of this out in the world. And 35 years ago, I'm walking down the high street of Sydney with my girlfriend on a Saturday, feeling cool and handsome and young and beautiful. And we're going past all of these shops. It's like 1 or 2 kilometers just of clothes and fashion boutiques in Sydney's Darlinghurst area. And I go into a Levi's jeans shop, and there's a grey cotton t-shirt, and it costs $20. And then we go down a few other stores to a high-end fashion brand like Hugo Boss or something like that. I don't remember which one, but let's say Hugo Boss. And you'll pick up a t-shirt, a grey cotton t-shirt in there, and the only difference is it has a Hugo Boss logo on it, and it was $220. It was more than 10 times the cost. And I said to the lady in the shop, I hold up this shirt and I said, do people actually buy to spend $220 on a grey cotton t-shirt? And she said, every day. What's the difference? Levi's demonstrates $20 value, Hugo Boss, $220 value. It's just a perception of value, but we're the ones that decide what that value is in the minds of the people who are buying from us, that we're pitching to. We have to demonstrate the value to them, otherwise there's no value to be perceived. And it all begins with the value proposition, because if you don't know what your value proposition is, your audience is not going to know it either. So the first part of becoming excellent at pitching is to be crystal clear what your value proposition is. What is the value proposition of your startup? So jump on the chat and tell me, what is a value proposition? Let's get clear about our terms here. What is a value proposition? And thank you, Felicia, for your answer about what is pitching, piquing an interest to make the receiver wanting more. Really good. I like that. Now jump on and tell me, what is a value proposition? No Googling. I'll know if you Googled. I have superpowers. What is a value proposition? This is at the heart of every pitch you will ever do. What is a value proposition? Jump on the chat and let me know. Again, don't worry about getting it wrong. Just worry about participating. Jump in. Your unique value that makes you stand out from others. Thank you, Chris. Great answer. Let's have a lot of interaction, please, people. No Googling. The value of the company in which investors buy into might be the team, might be the idea, might be the service. Great, Amar. Something that lights a fire, make the receiver feel a connection. Thank you, Felicia. Come on, everybody. What is a value proposition? Presenting the key value that would make the difference for the receiver. Great, Mo. The value you create for your customers, what they will pay for. Great. Ennis, thank you. So this is great. So you've got some really good answers here. So I think all of these answers are correct. You know, it's the value you get from the thing that you buy, the service or the product, that is really what people want to have. You know, people don't go to the gym for the exercise, they go to the gym for the results that they get from exercising, right? Looking beautiful and sexy and feeling healthy. The perceived or real benefit, the value the audience recognizes in the service or product. Thank you, Roland. I think these are all great answers, but in 2023 and beyond, we need to think of it much more deeply, which is it's the promise you make that you can never break. Now, out in the marketplace, the value proposition of Apple, Amazon, Google are so deep that we know what they are, even if we don't say it out loud, because it's so deep in the DNA of everything they do, the promise that they make to us, that we're addicted to those companies and we've made them trillion-dollar companies. So we're going to do a little exercise to look at this, but I really want you to think, what is the promise that your startup is making that you can never break? Because if you break it, you're now a different business. And every company needs to look at this, because this is the soul of your business. And I think that quite often when I work with, I work with about 150 startups a year in different incubators and startup generators and the Stockholm community, is I see a lot of people when they have a startup really drifting. They're like adding products and services that make no sense to their central promise, or they start with something. It's like, we're going to do a startup for women's health. It's going to be an app for women's health. You come back 6 months later, it's like, we've started a car wash. And you're like, what? How did you go from women's health to a car wash? Right? But there's this drifting that happens as people try and find a, product, a service. But I think it's also really clear that you can only pivot if you're pivoting, if you have something to pivot around. Otherwise, you're just drifting. And what you will pivot around is your value proposition, the promise that you're making. And so think of the value proposition as the sun, and the planets that orbit the sun are your products and services that you offer. And I also see a lot of startups that look like this, that they start with one idea and then they add things onto that idea that make no sense. Thanks, Mo, but there'll be a recording of the workshop. So sorry you missed the workshop, but you can watch the recording. But I see a lot of startups that look like this, that when I look at the constellation of things they're putting together, they make no sense in terms of a central value proposition. They're a beauty parlor, chainsaw repair, and nightclub. You do not want to be that company. You want to be a company where the promise you make is really at the center of it, and all of the services and products you add on over time make sense in relation to the central promise. And I think that, the first time I really understood the concept of a value proposition was when I saw this poster. It said, women's karate lessons, $5. Never be afraid to walk down a street alone again. Wow, what a phenomenal value proposition. Now, when I saw this, I was too young and too uneducated in business to understand what a value proposition was. But when I saw it, I thought, that is freaking cool, right? They haven't told me, come and study with the 7th black belt master Dan from the Qi lineage of Kung Fu Quan or some weird thing that I wouldn't understand. No, just straight to the value proposition. And what woman wouldn't pay $5 to never be afraid to walk down a street alone again? And so we need to make sure that we communicate our value really, really clearly, as well as we communicate the product, the service, the benefits of those things. So let's do a little exercise. What I'd like to do, let me just check how many people are in the room. We've got 30, we've got 11 participants. All right. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to quickly make some breakout rooms, and I would like you to pick, please take a screenshot of this slide. Just everybody take a screenshot of this slide so you can have it with you in the breakout room. And what I'd like you to do is I'm going to give you, let's say, 7 or 8 minutes, and I just want you to pick 2 companies, any 2 companies you like. And I want you to tell me what is the true value proposition for their customers in just 1 or 2 words. Because you should be able to tell me what your value proposition is in 2, maximum 3 words. That's how crystal clear we need to get on our value proposition. So just have a quick look at this list. I'm going to quickly make some breakout rooms for us. Automatically, great. So if you see a guest in your room called host iPad, that's just my second screen, ignore that. What I'd like you to do, I'm going to pop you into groups of 4 approximately, random groups. And what I'd like you to do, what is the value proposition of 2 companies? Just pick 2. What is their value proposition in just 1 or 2 words? I'm going to open the breakout rooms now, and I'll see you in 7 or 8 minutes, okay? See you soon. Jump into those breakout rooms. Have some fun. Welcome back, welcome back. People are coming. Rooms are going to close in 20 seconds or so. All right, welcome back, everybody. So, I'd love to hear. Let's go through some of these companies and see what you came up with. Let's see what their value proposition is. What about Tesla? You can open your mic if you did Tesla and chat to me. Anybody do Tesla? Great. All right. So Tesla, you know, they came out to the marketplace with this huge message around sustainability, but it's also up to now been a luxury item. This car has been an expensive car for most people. So you end up with sustainability and luxury. And what do you get from luxury products? Status. So the value proposition of Tesla has been like green status or sustainable status. Someone in another workshop said it's champagne activism. I love that, right? But sustainable status. But what I think is really important about this, Tesla have make electric cars. Their value proposition is this sustainable status. Could Tesla make an electric motorcycle? Yes or no? And keep their promise. Yeah. Could they make an electric boat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Could they make an electric helicopter? Yes.
Yeah, as long as it's environment friendly,
Right.
so
Exactly.
to speak, because I don't think the cars are also not very sustainable. But yeah.
Yep.
Give it time and then anything.
Yep. But if Tesla comes out tomorrow with a diesel-powered motorcycle, what will the marketplace say? What will be the response of the marketplace? You can also answer on the chat if you don't want to use your mic. What will the marketplace say when Tesla says our new product is a diesel-powered motorcycle? When their promise is sustainable status. What do you think the marketplace will say? Give me one. Boo, call Greta, right? They're going to say, what the hell are you doing? Because they're breaking the promise that they make. What about Airbnb? What's the value proposition of Airbnb? Feel free to answer this on the chat or open your mic. Airbnb. Anyone, any team work with Airbnb? Feel free to, you can also just jump on and guess now. But Airbnb, right? Their value, home that's not at home, really close. So home is the first word. What is the second word in their value proposition? Anywhere. So there you can see it in NS's answer, anywhere, right? Housing anywhere. So their value proposition is home anywhere for both the buyer and the seller of the, you know, on both ends of the transaction. If you're a buyer, you can get a home anywhere in the world, and if you want to rent out a property, make money, you can have a home anywhere and put it on Airbnb. And this was their value proposition when they entered Y Combinator, home anywhere. What about Microsoft? I know nobody did Microsoft because everyone thinks it's so boring, but did anyone do Microsoft? It's like 1 in 100 participants chooses that company. So Microsoft's value proposition inside the company is enable everybody. But I think most people would look at Microsoft as boring, reliable. Like not sexy, but it's just functional, reliable, or reliable and ubiquitous. It's like all over the world, isn't it? So if you send someone a Word document in Paraguay, they don't send it back saying, we've never seen something like this, right? Everybody knows Microsoft, but it's just boring and reliable. And every time they try and be sexy, it's really uncomfortable because they're just not a sexy company. What about Apple? The first tech company to cross, what, $3 trillion in valuation? a company that could buy Disney for 5% of its cash holdings. That's how big they are. What is the value proposition of Apple? Jump on and let me know.
Have we discussed Apple, or should we just write it in the chat? We said innovative design. Design comes to my mind when I hear about Apple.
That's exactly right. So it is beautiful, or the design part is, beautiful innovation. And so they took innovation that they could have, like all the innovation they could make, and they wrapped it in the most beautiful design possible and created this tier of consumer electronics that wasn't there before. And Apple sell 15% of the mobile phones, but take 85% of the money out of the mobile phone market. So again, how do I pronounce your name? Is it Tuğçe?
Tuğçe.
So Tuğçe, if Apple come out tomorrow with an ugly $50 yellow plastic mobile phone, what will the marketplace say?
Oh, it's not Apple.
It's not Apple, right? They'll just say that's not Apple. You've broken your, like, I mean, this is not just a that's the iPhone SE. But this is not just a company, this is almost a cult at this point, right? People line up to buy the new app. I mean, people used to, I don't know if they do anymore, but they used to line up overnight to buy the new iPhone, which never made sense to me. But, but that was how powerful the draw of that value proposition is. What about Facebook? Go ahead.
Sorry, we actually touched on that a little bit, how Apple is a status thing, not just in that sense, but it becomes how people become a walking brand ambassador for them.
Yeah.
So even if they would come up with a new phone, I think that those really loyal ambassador people would still go and get it just to be able to say that they got the new one, because it may be
absolutely.
I am sure they have something else.
Absolutely. And the other thing is because Apple keeps their promise to me, I don't even look at other brands. I walked into an Apple store in December, bought a new iPhone, new AirPods, new iPad, new charging cables. Like, I just went in there and I didn't even investigate other brands. I just went in, I needed a new phone, needed a new iPad. It's a business expense for me. So I just went straight in, said one of those, upgraded, blah, 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 right? So there's that loyalty that you get from keeping a promise. And and we all become like, addicted to the promise. What about Facebook? Did anyone do Facebook?
Yeah, we did. We said connections.
Yeah, connections, right? And anyone else want to chime in on Facebook? I think Facebook are breaking their value proposition so badly right now. So last week I'm on Facebook. I see 3 or 4 of my friends posting, where the fuck are my friends, on my feed. I'm just getting garbage nonsense pushed to me. And then 2 days later, I had like hardcore pornography on my feed. It's like a completely broken promise. But Facebook, I think, I think you're right there, Roland. It was all about connection. But I think it was also had another thing, which was curated connection, because you could choose who to friend, who to unfriend, who to follow, unfollow. You had this little curated community that you could build and maintain and have connection through that. And I think Facebook are making a massive mistake right now by chasing and trying to copy TikTok and breaking their value proposition. And I think it's really going to cost them dearly. They've really broken their promise, because it's every day I get less and less connection with the people I want to see, and more push content towards me of like stupid videos. What about Amazon? Amazon shopping, or anyone do Amazon? So Amazon shopping. Jeff Bezos had this absolute obsession. How do we make it easier for the customer to buy? That was his magnificent obsession that turned Amazon into the biggest, online shopping you could ever imagine. So I think for Amazon, it's really frictionless shopping. And they're the ones who invented one-click shopping and all these kinds of ways to make it easy for you to buy things. Now, I constantly buy books that I don't read. You know, I want you to think that I'm smart by having a bookshelf behind me, but I've only read like 20% of these books, because when someone tells me about a book, I go onto my Amazon app and I buy it in 60 seconds, turns up a few days later, and then it turns up and my wife says, you know, you need to read those books to get smarter, right? It's like you can't just buy a book. You don't get smarter from buying it, you get smarter from reading it. But Amazon has made it so easy to buy that I forget that I don't have time to read all the books that I buy. But they frictionless shopping. Now, if it took you like an hour and a half to buy a book from Amazon, would you use it? No, you wouldn't. Even if it took you 30 minutes to buy a book from Amazon, would you use it? Probably not. We're so addicted to that speed and that velocity of the purchase and the delivery. What about Gucci? Anyone do Gucci? A beautiful luxury brand.
He also did Gucci with Tuche and Roland. Yeah. And there is, of course, a certain minimum quality that you get with a high luxury brand. But also, the most of its value proposition is, again, status. Yeah. And I guess feeling maybe superior. Yeah.
Now, if you look at any Gucci ad, it will not mention quality at all. The quality is an assumed part of the agreement that you have with Gucci. So with Gucci, if you look at any of their ads, it will just be a beautiful person in a beautiful place, living a beautiful life, and it will just show them and it'll just say Gucci, nothing else. And so Gucci is status. It's wearable status. That is Gucci's value proposition. It's wearable status. You can literally put status on and walk down the street wearing it. And so for me, this is one where I think with luxury products, there is a quality implied, but we don't really take the quality as the important piece of the puzzle, because if we could get an equally expensive item that had no brand on it, would we buy it for the same price? And the answer is probably not. Felicia, you had a question?
Isn't that the exact best way to describe the whole Apple coming out with an ugly phone or Tesla doing something equally not?
Could you say that again, please?
It's very similar to what you said about Apple making an ugly phone. Yeah. I mean, seriously, this is a very subjective thought, but some of the ugliest garment pieces I've ever seen has been produced by all these high-end fashion brands like Gucci, Prada, Louis Vuitton.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I totally agree. I don't know why some people would wear some of these things, but I think part of that, what we call ugly, they would describe as unique. And the fact that someone wears,
I've heard it's called, you use eccentric if it's people that are rich.
Yeah. And I think that it's actually like, in a way, wearing a garment that nobody else would wear is another way of having status and uniqueness. And
that's like $120 shirt from Hugo Boss.
Yeah, right. So all of these things come into play, right? What about Google search? What is the value proposition of Google search? And I think this one is fascinating. What is the value proposition of Google search?
I mean, we talked about it in our group, touched on the subject, I think. We said, knowledge quickly or something like that.
Knowledge quickly. So quickly is part of it, which is fast, right? It's fast. But the other part is, what kind of knowledge do you get, Amar?
Well, I mean, yeah.
When you do a search, what kind of responses do you get?
The top ones are the sponsored ones.
Right.
And then you get everything from the heaven and hell.
Right.
So you got to be very cautious on the facts that you receive, right?
Right. But if I look up let's say I look up barbershops today on Google, it will tell me all the barbershops in Stockholm, and it'll tell me the ones that are closest to me, won't it?
Mm-hmm.
So that means the information I get is relevant to me. It doesn't give me the answer for every barbershop in the world. It tells me relevant information. And so for Google, the two things they put together that make them the dominant search engine is fast, relevant. And all they've done over the last decade is try and be faster and more relevant, faster, more relevant. And if you take either one of those ingredients out, you end up with a useless tool, because if it was relevant, but it took 6 hours to get that answer, not usable. If it was twice as fast, but not relevant at all, I would just end up with too much information that would take me too much time to sort through. So for Google, the reason why they're dominant is because they're fast and relevant. And the combination of those two make them the superpower that they are. Let's do one more and then we'll move on. What about McDonald's? Let's do an old school one. What's the value proposition of McDonald's? Then we're going to move on.
Convenient and economic and cheap.
Convenient, yeah. Anyone
Fast,
else?
happy meals.
Happy meals, yeah.
Fast.
Yeah, fast, happy meals, yeah. So when you go into McDonald's, what is the first thing you notice when you walk into a McDonald's in Stockholm, in Zurich, in Sydney? What do you notice?
They're all the same.
They're all the same. So the value proposition of McDonald's is no surprises or same every time. McDonald's isn't the best burger in the world, but you know exactly what it tastes like before you get into the restaurant, right? And McDonald's have made $1 trillion business on no surprises. They do not make exceptions. There are tiny exceptions to their menu in different countries. Like you can get mayonnaise instead of sauce in Amsterdam, as the Pulp Fiction said. But I think the really important thing to recognize is that when you go into McDonald's, it's the same everywhere. And I was in Antwerp and I went into a McDonald's and the girl was speaking Flemish to me and I was speaking English, and we did the whole McDonald's dance in 2 languages and I knew exactly what was happening. I got exactly what I needed. So no surprises. So this really is extremely powerful. I want you all to become detectives of value proposition. What are they actually selling me that I'm addicted to that makes me keep giving my money to this company? And I think that once you start to really see the world through this lens, it really changes the way you think about the businesses that you buy from, but it should also change the way you think about your startup. So what is the value proposition of your startup? So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to just jump on the chat. I need to break you into your team groups. If you could jump on the chat and tell me your company name and your team members, then I can start making some breakout rooms for you. And I'd like you to start thinking about this. What is the value proposition of your startup in just 2 words or so? Yeah. There might be some people here who are just on their own. Yeah, but Roland, what's your team member? Don't worry about telling me what your value proposition is just here. I've got quite a few people who are working here alone. Yeah, don't worry about telling me what your value proposition is now. I need to know who your team members are. You can tell me in a minute. Okay, so what I'm going to do, it seems like there's a lot of people here who are just working on their own today. And what I'm going to do is, okay, so what I'll do is, because there are a lot of people who are in different teams, I'm going to break you back out into your breakout rooms, and I'm going to give you 10 minutes. And I want you to I want you to do a little bit of work just quietly alone and then have a discussion. What is the value proposition of your startup in just 2, maximum 3 words? So what I'd like you to do, 10 minutes, put you in breakout rooms now. What is the value proposition of your startup in just 2 words? And I come back and coach you. And by the way, we finish at around 11:15 today. We'll finish the session, but I'm happy to stay for another 20, 30 minutes coaching people, working with you after that, if you have time to stay back or you want to stay back. Okay, so I'm going to open the rooms and let's work it out. 10 minutes starting now. Have fun with this. This is a really great work. Lead, I just assigned you to a room. Great. Am I not speaking? Hey, welcome back, everybody. So I would love to coach a few teams. So if you'd like me to coach you, just put your name in the chat and I'll go through with you. Just pop your name in the chat. We'll do it that way. Great, Chris. All right, Chris, I would love to coach you. So please tell me about your company and what is your value proposition?
Yeah. So part of us being here now is that we're kind of finding out exactly what we're pivoting to, but let's just say that we have already decided on physical health in companies to increase
Physical
performance.
health, yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Great.
So the value proposition would be something like enhanced well-being and performance.
Okay. Is that okay? So tell me a little bit about your company then, what you're thinking of doing, or what is your current product and service?
So we had like 4 different ones at the moment with an app to find the coaches and all that sort of
Me
stuff.
vaihdat, mä tuun perästä. Mä tuun perästä.
Yeah. So you talked about physical health, and then you talked about engagement and well-being, correct?
Engagement, I'm not sure. It's to increase well-being and performance through physical health.
Physical health, okay, physical.
Yes.
Okay. So you got physical health, all right. Now physical health is a big umbrella term, all right. But what are you going to do that allows people to access that physical health? So I want you to give me an example of one of the business ideas that you're working with, and we're going to kind of just, not necessarily you're going to do that one, but let me coach you on one of the ideas.
Sure. So if I understand your question correctly, the answer is that we have top coaches coming to companies and help their staff.
So coaches come to companies, and then these coaches come to companies, and then people can voluntarily sign up for a coach and get access.
Yeah, depending on how the management would like to see it, if it's mandatory or not.
Right. Yeah. But let's say it was mandatory, right? And then what you would be doing was embedding physical health in your organization.
Right.
Right. Or you'd be benchmarking or creating a benchmark or but I like that idea of embedding physical health into a company's culture. Right. And so if you had it mandatory, it would be that. And then if it was voluntary, then it would be, you could call it democratizing physical health in an organization, because everybody has access to health, nutrition, et cetera, and if you kind of take the physical health part and then add a word to it that is that tells you what you do with physical health. We embed physical health in your organization so that you end up with a baseline of physical health for all of your people, which lowers your absentee rates, raises your performance, and et cetera. So you're embedding it. But otherwise you're democratizing, giving access to all employees across the organization to health and well-being, information and expertise. So it's actually the word you add to physical health that actually is your value proposition. And I think increased health is a little bit too generic.
Enhanced, but the same thing.
Like anything could increase health. I eat a banana, I increase health.
That is true.
Right. So you need to kind of find one that's a little bit more sticky and a little bit more telling the true story of the value that your coaches bring to that organization. We're going to embed physical health into your culture, and we're going to help you make it part of your whole employer branding and internal company culture. So just as an example, embed physical health or democratize physical health, would be a value proposition you could go to market with, and as a promise, then that, let's say embed physical health, okay? This one, that's your value proposition. Then you have coaches, then you can have an app, then you can have recipes, then you can have food deliveries, then you can have books, then you can have workshops, you can on and on. The planets around that value proposition can just go on as far as the customer would be willing to spend.
Yeah, and the things you mentioned there is part of the plan, so that sounds good.
Right, and so this is where I think this is where it can be really powerful to get really clear about the words you use, because as soon as you change the words, it gives you so many ideas about how you could deliver that to the company. Right, so if you took embed, then it's like, oh wow, we could do this, and we could send this messaging, and we work with the leaders to have team days that are focused around physical health. There's so many things you can do once you get clear on that. And I want you guys to know that your value proposition is not only the promise you make to the marketplace, but it's also this creative foundation on which you can build your organization and your company. Because if you keep that promise, you just keep that central thought, it enables you to think more creatively. Yeah? Hopefully that helps you, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Roland, you're up next.
Yeah, so our short description of what we're doing is we improve mental health and resilience by improving its precondition, neurometabolic health.
Right.
So that's our description. Now that's not, as I realize now, not so much a core value proposition. I think the value proposition is really around personalized nutrients,
right.
Which is how we fix metabolic health or neurometabolic health in the context of mental health. Yeah,
great. And this is a really exciting company that you're starting. And so it could be metabolic resilience. It could be it could be resilience around what would you say? Preventative resilience. You know, could be one. So you really need to take the I really like the word resilience, because I think it's a really fantastic word. And then what do you put before that word that makes resilience become sticky, magnetic, attractive? And so neuro-resilience, for example.
Resilience.
Neuro-resilience, preventative.
Yeah, and it's now, you know, what we're doing, and your comments are thought-provoking. Personalized nutrients not only are relevant in the context of our mental health, actually are the precondition for us to feel well, to sleep well, but they're also, frankly, precondition to our immune system. They're a precondition to our cardiovascular system. So it's a foundation to our health in many ways. And nutrient decline is what we're up against.
Right, and so foundational resilience, preventative resilience, metabolic neuro-resilience. You have to now think about the words that you put together that allow the marketplace to understand what you're selling. And I think that it's sometimes when we use words like neuro, starts to get a little bit complex for the marketplace. But if we talk about foundational resilience, and then through that you can have nutritional health, neuro health, psychological, physical, mental, spiritual. You can keep adding planets to that. But just think about, I really like your business and your idea, but right now it feels like it's really, really wide for the marketplace to understand. And so can we get it down to just 2 or 3 words that allow the marketplace to truly understand how you're making the world a better place? The promise we make to you is preventative resilience or foundational resilience practices.
Thank you.
Fantastic, Roland. I'll do one more, which is Gulib.
Hi. And for us, first at the session, what we do is we automate the patient note taking in healthcare. So we have a tool that writes a patient note based on the doctor-patient conversation. And at the beginning, the value proposition for us was, or what I was thinking now was efficient healthcare. But listening now to the previous examples, I think one that came to my mind could be eliminating unnecessary administrative work.
Yeah, well, that's actually a benefit, right? But your value proposition is we're digitizing patient records. Yeah, it's like digitizing, because you're taking something that's a really old legacy system of the medical system, which stops information being shared easily. It requires, you know, qualified nurses to spend time doing admin, and doctors as well. And you're either digitizing or optimizing, right? And I think that you need to really think about that. Like, what do we do with patient records? We digitize, we optimize, we yeah, I think those are the kinds of words that come to mind. And it's like, when you think about it just simply like that, if you're digitizing patient records, you can do that for the hospital, but then you could also digitize them and make them like available to the patient, right? And so there's all of these planets that come out of that value proposition that allow you to show value for all the different stakeholders in the chain and add features and services that would make that product and service even more valuable throughout the process, right? I mean, the one thing I've met a couple of startups who are working on this challenge over the last 5 years, and you know, one of the things that I always think of is just for insurance purposes, the fact that patient records could be digitized for every, you know, doctor, you know, has the opportunity to lower the malpractice premiums they have to pay on a yearly basis if they're shown to be filling these forms out correctly. So a doctor that fills the forms out 100% correctly every time gets a higher rating and a lower insurance score. There's all kinds of things that could come out of this if you just make sure your value proposition is really strong. Does that make sense, Gulib?
Yes.
100%, right? So really good. So you get the idea. Get your value proposition really clear. I'm happy to coach some more people after the session's finished if you would like to work with me. But we're going to move forward because we only have a short session today, and well, short by my standards. Normally a workshop's 8 hours, so for me this is short. Let's quickly jump in. So the one thing I would just want to say again is that, you know, if you know your value proposition, it enables you to create ideas more quickly, more creatively, because you've created this center of gravity in your business, this promise that you know you're not going to break. And once you do that, it clarifies everything and enables you to really pivot, grow, reposition really fast. So we've got to think about the emotional button. When we're pitching, which button are we going to press with our customers? We're going to press the pain button or the gain button. And our value proposition, our products and services, our pitch is going to press one or the other. Sometimes we're going to use both. But pain is a problem you're solving, and gain is giving the customer something else that will elevate them in happiness, status, well-being, performance, etc. So a few years ago, I'm hosting a conference. I host a lot of conferences as part of my portfolio, and the chief security officer of a big Swedish bank, let's say Swedbank, I don't remember, but we can call it Swedbank, said the 4-digit PIN codes that we use for our, you know, bank cards and our purchases are the illusion of security. They can be hacked by someone on the dark web in just a few seconds. And the only other thing that we have that we could use is this tube that you put your finger in, and infrared light reads your whole finger as a 3D fingerprint. The problem is it would cost 500 million euros to put that in all of the shops across the Nordics. So let's say that chief security officer goes to the bank and he says to the board of directors, I need 500 million euros to put this new security into the bank. Is he going to press the pain button or the gain button to get that pitch across the line? Jump on the chat and let me know. Is he going to press the emotional button of pain, or is he going to press gain to get the board of the bank to give him 500 million euros? Jump on the chat and let me know. Pain or gain? Pain. Yep, really good, Roland. Pain. Just quick answers. Pain or gain? Which emotional button is going to get the bank to give that chief security officer 500 million euros? Last chance to dance. Everybody answering, please, on the chat, if you can. Pain or gain? So, pain. Everybody answering, please. Stay in the game with me. You're half the show. I can't do it alone. Pain or gain? So far, all the answers are pain. That's correct. That chief security officer is going to walk into the bank and say, it's not a matter of if we get hacked, it's when we get hacked. And when we get hacked, it won't be a few accounts. It'll be hundreds of thousands of accounts. And when that happens, it will become a scandal in the newspaper. That will mean customers will come in out of fear and close their accounts by the thousands, and that will be another newspaper scandal. And over just a few days, we could lose billions and billions of dollars in valuation. But for just 500 million, I can solve this problem for you. And so he's going to press that pain button really hard. Now, let's say Swedbank brings this out to the marketplace. They've got this weird finger reading technology in all of the shops across the Nordics. They want to now tell their customers that the bank has done this wonderful thing. Are they going to press the pain button or the gain button with their customers? Which emotional button would they press with their customers? Pain or gain? They go out to the marketplace and say, hey, we put this new finger reading technology in every shop, in every place of purchase. Which emotional button are they going to press with their audience in the marketplace? Jump on the chat. Gain. Yeah. Gain. Keep those answers coming. Pain or gain? One more. Come on. Let's have one more at least. Gain. All right. So they're going to press that gain button really hard. There'll be a TV advertisement, a family in a toy store buying a new teddy bear, new soft bear for their child, 4-year-old daughter. They'll show you, putting their finger in a tube, paying for this little bear, giving the bear to the child, and then it'll just be a close-up of a 4-year-old girl holding her new toy bear, and there'll just be a voiceover. Well, they'll show the close-up with a cute face. Swedbank, the safest bank in the world, because we care about your family. Right? That bank voice, bank advertisement voice will come on, right? As Felicia says, the company care about what they may lose the user, right? So Swedbank is going to push really hard. We care about you, so we've done this thing. So each audience that you pitch to, customers, investors, whoever it is, might need a different pitch. Same value proposition, but you're going to use a different pitch to press a different emotional button. And by the way, so many advertisements are pain and then gain. What is every before and after photo on the internet of people's weight loss but pain and gain, right? That is the two emotional buttons that marketers are pressing all day long with you. So let's look at pitching now, a structure for pitching anything to anyone. And in this last half hour or so, we're just going to write a really quick, short pitch for your company, and we're going to do it in 7 sentences. Because if you can't do it in just 7 sentences, you won't be able to do it in 20 minutes. So the idea is to be able to get absolute clarity and then use this structure for pitching to pitch anything to anyone. So spin pitching. So this comes out of spin selling, which many of you have heard of. I didn't invent it. IBM did, I believe, 100 years ago. But I've adapted it for pitching. And it looks like this. And by the way, you'll get a copy of these slides as well as the link to the recording. So what is the current situation? You cannot demonstrate value if you don't talk about the context of the moment. What is the problem created by the current situation? What is the problem created by the current situation? And then we get implication. What will happen if the problem is not solved? So the implication is just the problem's problem. And then we get to the need, where you can start to talk about your value proposition and your solution. So a really simple example of this would be the current situation is the Earth is warming up. The problem is that is melting the ice caps on the North and South Pole. And the implication of that is low-lying areas of land will be flooded by 2050, displacing 600 million people. So we need a way to quickly turn around the carbon emissions on the planet and lower the temperature of the planet. So that's just a quick example. Now, when we get here, I think we can start talking about our value proposition where need is as well. But here we really talk about our value proposition and our solution, what we're actually giving to the marketplace. Then we talk about the people who have created the company and what their expertise is. And then we can talk about the process. And for you, the process as pitching investors would be the process is we're currently in a beta phase of our business. We need investment to move to the first launch, and then we're going to roll out across Europe, whatever the process and timeline is for you. So it looks like this. Please take a screenshot of this with you to take to your breakout rooms. What is the current situation? What is the problem, the implication, the need? Then you hit them with your value proposition, then the people, then the process. So this is a really simple way for you to be able to manage a pitch about anything for anybody. And, you know, I really have used this so much in my life. It's embedded in my head. And I think that one of the other things that we should really think about is the fact that this is a sequence that the brain likes to use to understand information. So the sequence of this information really matters to the audience because it's a logical journey from beginning to end, from big picture down to small detail, from problem to solution. So please keep the sequence. And by the way, you know, I use this methodology when I basically proposed to my wife. You know, I said, you know, the situation is I live in Sydney, you live in Stockholm. And the problem is, even though we really love each other, we're not going to be able to have a long distance relationship forever. And the implication, if somebody doesn't move, then we're going to lose this opportunity to have this amazing life and love together, which is why one of us needs to move, which is why I'm going to move to Stockholm. Yay, right? It worked. She bought it. 12 years together, 11 years married. Now, it was a bit more romantic than that. There was candles, there was music, it was a beautiful restaurant, but essentially a spin pitch. And so what I'd like you to do is to really capture this and use this now. And what I'm going to do is I want you to go into breakout rooms, and I would like you to write a short pitch. Now, a short pitch is where you try and describe in just one sentence per category everything I need to know about your company. So in 60 to 90 seconds, you can tell me everything I need to know. And this is how you should build every pitch. You start with 7 sentences and then build out. You don't start by making slides. You start by getting right down to the core message that you want to give to this audience and working from there. So I know most people here are working on their own today. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to put you into your breakout rooms, but I'd like you to work alone, but you can also ask each other for help, okay, over the next 10 minutes. And I want you to write 7 sentences. You can also do maybe 2 sentences per category if you need to, but not more than that. Your job is to keep it as crisp and clear as possible. And so go into your breakout rooms, you work on your own, but you're welcome if you finish to read it out to each other, ask for help, support each other in this process, and you'll have 10 minutes to do this. And then we're going to come back and I'm going to listen to your pitches. Let's say 8 minutes or so. We're going to do 8 minutes, 8 or 9 minutes. And then we're going to come back. I'll listen to some pitches and I'll give you some feedback on them. Try and keep things in the right place. Try and keep the problem in the problem thing, the need in the need part, the people in the people part, and see how you go. So let's go to our breakout rooms. We're going to do around 8, 9 minutes for this one. And then we'll bring you back and we'll work together. Opening the rooms now. Make sure you take a screenshot. Got a screenshot of this? Make sure you take a screenshot, and I'm going to open the breakout rooms now, and off we go. Here we go. Have fun.
Well, can you please click them slides as it will?
Say again, please.
Hi, Malcolm.
Great, everyone's back. Thank you. So I would love to hear some pitches. So I'd love just jump on the chat and tell me if you'd like to pitch, and then we can come back and get some pitches. Okay, sure. So Ennis, I'd love you to open up your microphone and read your pitch out to me, and I can coach you on it.
Before I do that, can I ask about the people and process part of this?
Yep. So people is talking about your team and who the people involved. And then process is where are you, this is for investor pitching, would be around this is where we're up to in our journey. This is what we're expecting to do. We're going to get, you know, with your investment, we'll onboard more people. So what is the process going forward? But if you're out pitching to a company, your products and services, you'd be telling them what it's going to look like to work with you. Yeah. In terms of the process of working.
Yeah. Okay. So let me say, forgetting keys or struggling to understand things can signal cognitive decline, often ignored until it's too late, leading to a loss of independence. A major threat we face is the cognitive health crisis among Generation X as they are in the age of cognitive risk. Generation X, being both caregivers and parents, are crucial for societal balance, and their extended cognitive health is vital. The solution lies in early detection and fostering brain-healthy habits. BrainX blends metabolic and cognitive health with scientific gamified tests to detect early cognitive decline and personalized lifestyle suggestions to extend the brain health span. Our team, consisting of, maybe I can go like this. Our product, which is on the market, has been done all in-house. So our development team is in-house, and our chief scientific officer, who is a neurology professor of 30 years of experience in the fields of Alzheimer's disease, is behind our scientific tests. Where we are at the moment is we have our product on the market and we are ready to scale with this investment. Fantastic. Thank you for listening.
Great. So that's a great first attempt at this pitch. So I think, you know, with this pitch, what I would do is I would try and be a little bit more clear at the beginning about the topic that we're talking about and what we do. So the current situation is there is a tsunami of cognitive health disorders in older people in our societies. And the problem is that we've been very focused on caring and cures, but not on prevention. And so the implication is that this cognitive crisis will continue unless we focus on stopping the problem occurring in the first place, which is why we need preventative measures and activities and behavior change in the generations that are coming now, which is why we've created XYZ. And I think the people and process part was really, really good. So, but I think it's really important to just be really clear. This is what we're doing. We're trying to prevent, we're working on the prevention side of this problem, and this problem will continue to grow. Now, when you do a full pitch, you can put a lot into that. Yeah. And I think I really like that in terms of people, you've got a lot of credibility. When you talk about the situation, this is a great place to use statistics and numbers. So the current situation is that we're in a cognitive health crisis where 1 in 3 people over the age of 80 has dementia or Alzheimer's, something like that, like really landed. And then the problem is that once they have that, it's too late to solve the problem because it's an incurable disease. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, I have a lot of statistics, but it's hard to like give all of them in 1 or 2 sentences because and you don't need to. You only need to give the statistic that show the scale of the problem. So you only need to have enough of them. Don't use them all, but enough to show credibility, but also show the size of the problem. So just saying something like 1 in 3 people over the age of 78 has Alzheimer's or dementia, right? That's
like,
the thing.
I'm just making a statistic up, but that's the kind of thing that gives your pitch a lot of credibility.
Okay, a question. So we are not specifically for dementia or Alzheimer's, but they are the biggest result of cognitive decline. So it's obviously a huge part, but we are trying to target cognitive decline. It can happen due to major changes in life, huge stress, psychological disorders as well. But even without me saying anything about dementia in the pitch, except for our professor's title, your focus goes to the disease. It's been a challenge for us to get this across to the people that we talk with.
So the situation is when we talk about cognitive decline, most people think about the extreme end, which is dementia and Alzheimer's. But there's actually a whole spectrum of cognitive decline that happens before those extreme situations, which could be prevented. And the problem is currently there's no prevention strategies in place. So you
Okay.
could do it something like that.
Okay. Okay.
You
just
help
right
the
off the bat,
audience you help the audience right at the beginning focus on the actual problem you're solving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Okay,
Thank you so much. Who else would like to pitch? What about you, Tuche?
Sorry, I was a lot of notes everywhere. But I will try.
Yeah, please. That'd be great.
This situation is lack of digital investment in healthcare. And the problem is that people waiting in the queue and they are not satisfied the care they need in the speed they wish. And the implication would be that healthcare will not be maintained in the long run, considering the increase of the population. And need is to a digital platform to pair up technology and healthcare so that we can help caregivers to deliver more data-driven care. And the people, me and my co-founder with an advisory board of 6 people who has different expertise in medicine, will deliver this, and the process that we are on a journey to make a case study with caregivers to pilot test and get some results out of this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Excellent. Could you just read the first little bit again for me?
The situation is the lack of digital investment in healthcare. And the problem is that people waiting in the queue to receive the care, and even they do, they are not satisfied. They don't feel engaged with the caregivers. And the implication is that healthcare will not be maintained in the long run with this way of delivering. And when also consider the increase of the population, that they need more care, but we don't need that.
So and I think there you always want to talk about the aging population. It's not really the increase in population, it's the age of the population. Like, people are living longer, I think, is really the compelling thing to talk about there. But what are you actually doing in your company that is making the difference? Because I didn't actually hear I heard digitization, but what are you actually going to do?
We will use an AI technology to help the caregivers so that they can deliver their business in more data-driven way, that they take care of the data in a different way that they do today. Not sure if I need to dive deep into the details or use a story. But the core value is the data-driven healthcare that we want to help out with the caregivers.
Okay, so you got data-driven healthcare as your value proposition.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And then what I think is really interesting here is we've got to lean on that right from the beginning. So the current situation is the old way of doing things is a hands-on analog pipeline of healthcare options that cannot scale to meet the demands of the marketplace. And the problem is that if we don't digitize and leverage data in the healthcare system will always be a funnel where more people come in at the top that can be served in the skinny part at the bottom. And so the implication is, if we don't actually widen the funnel of opportunities to deliver healthcare to people through digital services, we're going to end up with a collapse of the healthcare system. So we need AI-driven, data-driven healthcare options that widen the circle of healthcare delivery to patients in terms of speed and scale and variety.
Yeah.
Which is why we've created DataTerra, which is going to revolutionize the way healthcare is delivered to future generations.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can talk about yourselves in the process. But I think it's really important to talk about the fact that current healthcare model cannot scale.
Yeah.
Right? And so we've got to digitize it, and then we've got to leverage the data on patients and healthcare in a way that allows us to safely widen the circle. Yeah?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and so I would say something like that. Would anyone else like to have a turn before we move on? I'm happy to do one more.
I would love to, if you don't mind.
Go for it. Yeah, please do so.
And I'm the newest addition to the company, and I just took a little bit different approach on this. So I narrowed it down to: the world gets more digitalized by the day, which is great in many aspects, such as economy and environmental, though it takes a big hit on the human need for social connection and the essence of belonging, which according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, places number 3 out of 5. Mm-hmm. Without this part being fulfilled in people's life, we'll see a continued drop in mental health due to loneliness and lack of belonging. Humans are pack beings and thrive the most in the company of others, and therefore will benefit from getting back to basics of bringing people together without the fence of a screen. Bringing the sensation of belonging by implementing presence, the senses, touch, smell, taste, hearing, that gets experience started through shared interests and activities. So what I tried to do here was to tell the story of the spin without pushing people my way, but rather show a helping hand and offer a solution.
So what do you actually do, Felicia? What does your company actually do?
We have an app that makes people connect, not just through people they know, but through shared hobbies and interests. Mm-hmm. For example, I'm friends with you, but I happen to love Australian footy.
Yep.
But you, like all my other friends, don't feel it's not worthy to spend the money on the tickets to go to a game.
Yep.
So this way I can find other enthusiasts to do things that I like.
Yeah.
So it's me missing out on something to do and time spent with people in my peers. Yeah. It's a way to open up a door.
Okay, so it's shared interests. Connection through shared interests, correct?
Connection through shared interests.
Okay, so that's your value proposition is connection through shared interests. And yes. Then if I do that, then what I want to do is I want to put that value proposition higher up, because you're telling me about the problem, but you're telling me about the problem in such a wide way that I don't know how to really understand. Like, it's a little bit, I call this giving your pitch a haircut, right? We've got to take some hair off the top. We've got to take some fluff off the top and bring your value proposition a little bit more into the situation and problem. So the current situation is that we see a big increase of loneliness and disconnection through the online world. And the problem is that quite often people could be connecting with other people who share similar interests, but they have no way to find them that actually allows them to make a real world connection once they've met online. And so the implication is you can have hundreds of interest groups of people that never meet. And so we need to actually turn the digital connections into physical interaction to combat the loneliness, which is why we need to have a shared connection or shared connection through hobbies, etc., on this app, right?
Yes.
Something like that.
I decided to do the pitch in a different aspect, because now I did pique your interest and I made you want to know more.
Yeah, but I think the real key thing is that you also have to show me how you're different to a Facebook group. So I belong to a Facebook group for drummers because I'm a former professional drummer, right? And so I'm on a Facebook group, but I've never met any of these people, have no intention of meeting them. There's no plan to meet any of them. So while we share video clips and pictures of our drums and have that digital connection, you're the person who actually takes this to the next level, right?
Yes, so we will be the one creating the event, saying, oh, there's a lot of active members in this group. How about we book a venue and have a jam session at the local pub?
And so this is actually also a really important part of your pitch, which is to take this to the next level, like show how you're different to a Facebook group. And you have to handle that objection in your pitch, because that's the first thing people are going to think. You're right, how are you different? And so, yeah, I think it's a really good idea. And I think that, you know, if you work on it and push it forward, you know, there could be some real traction with this. I think it's a really good idea. And the fact that you can search by category, like, you know, when you get down to your solution, so jump onto the app, search by category, search by geography, find people in your area that have the same interests, quickly and easily organize events, see available venues. There's like, you know, then you start to really talk about how your app can really facilitate that connection.
It almost sounds like you already used it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'd love to. So just finishing up now for the day. I know you've got to get back to your actual lives. So you get a pitch, you do a short pitch, and then you start to get clarity. And I highly encourage you to always write the shortest pitch you can so you have the clarity for yourself. Try and get it down to 1 or 2 sentences per category maximum before you start building a deck, before you start working out how to do it. But I also think it's really important that we understand that it's not enough to make sense. You have to also be compelling. You're in the attention economy. You have to capture people's attention. So I've talked to you about a short pitch now, and of course you write a longer pitch, which is a full deck. But a great way to start a longer pitch where you have 20 minutes or 15 minutes or half an hour to pitch a VC is for you to start with a short pitch. You do 4 sentences. You tell them the spin part, current situation, the problem, the implication, this is the need, and then you go back and start again with a long pitch. And one of the best ways for you to start your long pitch, once you've told them the short pitch, is to start with a story. So I recently moved to Stockholm and I love Australian football, but I have no way to meet people who do that and interact with them, which is, you know, and then you can talk about that. Who is your audience? You're going to be pitching investors and customers differently. Pain, gain. You're going to be really showing your investors a different opportunity than you are your customers. So make sure you're pitching your audience in the right way. Why you? So there's a problem, but why are you the person solving it, Felicia? Why are you the person who's doing this? So maybe you've got 20 years experience in the events industry. Maybe you're a psychologist. Maybe you're a data expert that has worked out how to connect people. Why are you and your team the people who are solving it? So myself, Malcolm, who's an events expert, Felicia, who is an expert in AI, and our back-end developer, Touche, is going to blah, 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 build this company. So you really need to tell the audience why you're the people. Show credibility. I think as well, sometimes if you're an expert, make sure you tell the audience. But if you're not an expert, quote an expert. So according to the World Health Organization, loneliness is now, it actually has been named by the World Health Organization as an epidemic. So in 2022, the World Health Organization said loneliness is an epidemic and they put it on a high alert. That's something you could tell the audience to show expertise in the area. It's not your expertise, but you're borrowing expertise and credibility. Please say what it actually is. Is it an app? Is it a web-based platform? Is it water filtration hardware tech? When you say our solution, it's really vague. And the problem is your audience cannot make a picture in their head of our solution, but they can picture an app. They can picture a web-based platform. They can picture a water filter. So please say what it actually is. And I think this is really, really important especially when you're speaking to customers. Who are you like? We are the Spotify of books. Just like Apple, we focus on product design as a key brand value. Just like Airbnb don't own hotel rooms, we don't want to own office space, only supply office space. So sometimes comparing yourself to a company that's already in the marketplace is a really fast way for you to help the audience understand your company, how it's structured. I mean, if I say we're the Spotify of books, you're immediately going to think app, subscription, digital. Like, you're going to fill in a lot of blanks for me so that I don't have to say them out loud. So it's a really good way for you to think, a really good way for you to communicate your value quickly. Validation. Everything you say will only be your best guess if you cannot offer validation to the audience. But I just want to say, you only need enough in the pitch, not everything. So in terms of validation, this is where you say things like 1 in 3 people over the age of 40 show signs of cognitive decline. Sorry, there was my cognitive decline on display. But, you know, show some validation really early in the pitch with just some quick statistics, some quick numbers, show the scale of the problem. It really helps with investability and viability. Storytelling. When you move from the short pitch to the long pitch, start with a story. Stories are powerful, and personal stories are even more powerful. So when it comes to digitizing healthcare, for instance, with Data Terra, it's like, you know, you say, you know, you do a short pitch, current situation, the healthcare system is analog, can't scale. Then you tell a story. My grandmother was 80 years old, and even though she paid health insurance for years, it was an 18-month wait for her to have a healthcare provider give her the healthcare she needed. Now, if it had been digital, she would have been able to start communicating with an AI, getting her information across from the moment she needed it. But because it wasn't there, she sat and suffered for 18 months. Right? So these kind of stories are really, really powerful when you start doing a pitch, and put a picture of your grandmother on screen, engage emotion right at the top, make people understand it through a story. And please don't forget the power of images. Imagine I'm a startup. I've got a healthcare app called Latchkey, and I start the pitch with, every day, 1 million American children come home. 1 million children between the ages of 9 and 13 come home and spend up to 2 hours a day alone, which is causing them anxiety, stress, and mental health disorders. Like, how powerful will that image be at the start of my pitch? So please don't forget, with all your data and your graphs, how powerful an image can be to convey the value of your product and service. And my last tip for you before I let you go is, never waste the first slide, because the first slide is the one that is usually on screen longest. At your demo day, when you do an investor pitch, it goes up on screen, you're walking up on stage, the audience has 10, 20 seconds with this opening slide, which is much more than they'll get with any other slide on your deck. Now, if I had a startup called Malkify, and I just put making the world a better place, you don't know anything about my business based on this slide. But if I change the tagline to being something closer to my value proposition, then it looks like this: B2B money transfers enabled by blockchain. How much do you already know about my company just because I gave you that information on the first slide? I've already set a framework for understanding my pitch for you with that simple 6-word sentence. So please don't waste the first slide with like some cheesy line like making the world a better place or whatever. Really tell the audience what you're going to tell them. Signal them the frame they should understand. And last thing I would always say to every single startup is, does the world really need this innovation? My dad came home from a cruise ship trip in the 1980s with a calculator, alarm clock, cigarette lighter. I'll never forget it. A Casio cigarette lighter, calculator, alarm clock. It's like, you know, I don't think anybody needed those things to be together, but they put them together and sold some. But always be honest with yourself. Who would pay for this? How much would they pay for this? And can we deliver this in the opportunity window that's available? Really be honest with yourself, because, you know, a startup is a big gig, and I see, you know, some of the ideas that I've heard today, I think are really wide ideas that I'd love to see get a bit smaller. You know, maybe when it comes to solving, you know, a challenge in the community, you do it for just one group of people. You build a niche, like making your connection app just for women, or making your healthcare data AI delivery just for booking appointments. It could be, you know, you pick a niche and you go deeply into it and you make $1 billion just solving one problem, not the whole problem. Yeah, so have a think about that. And the last thing I want to say is practice. Get in the every day when you're in the shower, do a spin pitch on your business. You'll get cleaner and smarter. That's a great use of your time. And I think that practicing is something you should all be doing. Pick up a shampoo bottle. How would I pitch this? Think about putting a product and a service together, or a problem and a service together, and make a little spin pitch in your head while you're having a shower. So keep practicing it, because if you learn the framework, you can pitch anything to anybody. And with that, I'm sorry for keeping you for a few minutes longer. Please reach out to me. We're going to have a one-on-one session, and we've got some times booked already, or some times available already for the one-on-ones. And people are welcome to jump in. Stefan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. So,
okay. Yeah, you want to jump in?
Yeah. So, for you that are still on the call, you have the first opportunity to book your time right now. I'll send them in the chat here, the available times. I changed to 45 minutes, Malcolm. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
I have a lot of companies. So here are the 6 first available. So quickly write your name here. I have a document here that will be shared. Write your company name here, the time that would fit work for you in the chat. And for those who are not here, we will send the document and they can book their session that, or contact you directly if that would be.
Yes, that's correct. So if you'd like to choose one of these times, please jump on the chat now and just let us know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll share it later, but this is your chance to grab you have the first chance to dance. With these times, we'll do a one-on-one session. We'll go through your slides, go through your pitch. We'll really take a deep dive into your value proposition. If anyone wants to book now, please do so. I'm just going to stop the recording now. Thanks for that. Thank you.
Tara.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara, for taking a time.